Hi everyone, Stephen here. So this video, as always, is going alongside the blog about how we can begin to adopt a winner's mindset, that positive mindset, and how it can begin to help us to achieve some of the results that we set out to do in our lives. So what I'm going to do to begin with is talk about what a winner's mindset is, or even what a mindset is. It doesn't necessarily have to be a winner's mindset. So a mindset is the thoughts, the beliefs, the feelings, the attitudes about ourselves. It's the things that we are experiencing. It's the things that we tell ourselves. It's, if we think about it, the positive things that we may tell ourselves about a given situation. It may also be some of the negatives and all those kind of thoughts, feelings that all kind of originate around that. It's basically who we are. And it's why I kind of stress the importance of this, because if we go ahead and think about our goals, whether they're big or whether they're the smaller ones, if we approach these with a positive mindset, then we're going to be in a much better place and much more motivated to actually begin to go out and actually achieve them and actually get those results. Whereas the flip side, if, like, you know that I enjoy my running side of things, so take it from me from a running perspective, that if I have, say, a 10-mile run on the Sunday and it's the Saturday night, if I'm approaching this of like, oh, I really can't be bothered to go and do this, then the next morning when it comes to me doing this, unsurprisingly, I'm not going to perform to the best of my abilities. And I may not even complete that run, because my mindset is always there nagging me to say, oh, can I really do this? Can I really do this? Whereas the flip side is, and this is where some of my best runs have come from, is that if I pump myself up and say, right, yes, I can go and do this, then lo and behold, I go and do it. And some of the best runs that I've been on have been from that outlook. So the mindset is really important because it can actually be the difference between us achieving our goals or kind of falling by the wayside and procrastinating, maybe falling short, or maybe just thinking to ourselves, oh, well, it didn't really matter anyway, so it's okay. So the next parts of this this video was to basically go in and talk about how we can begin to forge that mindset, how we can begin to adopt this winner's mindset. So the first part, and this is probably the biggest stumbling block that a lot of people that I work with have, it's about believing in yourself. It's about having that motivation, having that thought that, yes, you can go and do this, you can achieve it. And over this last few days, I've been tuning into the Tony Robbins New World, New You challenge. I like his material, so even though I've done this similar thing before, it's always good to sharpen the pencil, as I like to say. And and last night was the final day, and he pulled out somebody who actually attended the Unleash the Power Within session. She spoke at it that I attended back in July. And this was a lady called Siri Lindley. You may have heard of her, you may not, but for those who don't, I will go into who she is. So Siri, she is a triathlete, or was a triathlete, and she unfortunately did get cancer, and she's now kind of survived that. She's recovered from it. So that's one part of her mindset, the fact that she had a 5% chance of survival, and she's survived. She's still with us today, which is remarkable. But the thing I wanted to focus on is about the other part of her journey. So in her younger years, she decided that she wanted to go off and do a triathlon. So for those who don't know the triathlon, it's a swim, it's bike, it's run, it's very long distance. It's around about 140 miles altogether across all of those three different disciplines. Now, usually when you decide that you want to go and do a triathlon, you actually have a background in either the swimming, the biking, or the running, ideally kind of all three. Well, Siri had never swam in her life, whereas she said that she wanted to go and do this. So she set out, went and did a training, turned up to the event, and she said on the video she came drop dead last. But that didn't deter her. She went home beaming. Said to her mum, I'm going to become the #1 female triathlete in the world. And naturally, the reaction of her mum wasn't too positive. It was like a bit questioning, like, so, okay, you've just come drop dead last, like, why would you do this? But she set herself that goal. And fast forward a number of years later, she did become the #1 female triathlete. And it kind of brings me on to the next point around this. So the first point around it is that have belief, just know that you can do whatever you set your mind to. And this is the thing of the positive mindset, that if you create the conditions for your own success, then you can go ahead and achieve whatever you set out to do. Now, as I mentioned, linking on to point 2 here is something that I would bet a lot of money that Siri actually had in place to achieve this. And this is a plan and a strategy. So it's not like she would have turned up on the day when she became the #1 and having just run a couple of runs and done a couple of swims and been out on the bike a little bit. She would have actually had a consistent plan. She would have had a team of people around her helping her on that journey. It wouldn't have been just that one overnight success as we so often perceive things to be. It would have been years and years of building up to that specific day, that specific event. So think about it when you have your goal. And I talk about this in many of my other videos, how we may have this big, hairy, ambitious goal, but what are the smaller incremental steps to go and get us towards that goal? I'll mention running again, right? So we have a marathon, we're aiming for a marathon, and that marathon is 12 months away. Well, by month 2, we want to have ran 5 kilometers. By month 4, we want to have ran 10 kilometers. By month 6, we want to have done a half marathon. By month 8, we want to have done, say, 20 miles, and so on. So what these are actually doing is it's not just kind of steps to get us up towards that goal, but it's actually helping us to forge that positive mindset as well. Because just think how you would feel if you have completed your first ever 5 kilometers, your first ever 10 kilometers, your first ever half marathon. It's those smaller steps that can keep that motivation going. It can keep us tuned in. It can keep us breathing success. It can be this constant release of dopamine into our brains, which kind of help motivate us and drive us to kind of keep continuing to achieve these things. So the next thing is then around identifying the strengths and weaknesses. You are good at a hell of a lot of things, but you're also not so good at a hell of a lot of things as well. So you need to identify, you need to understand. So what are those things that you are really good at? Also, what are those things that you're not so good at? And who can you go to actually fill those gaps? So personal example here in terms of my training, I don't know deep tissue massage. My wife doesn't know deep tissue massage. So whenever I got a little niggle, I'd go to my specialist and he'd give me a deep tissue massage. I didn't know the ins and outs of kind of helping to drive my body towards a balanced state. So I went to my personal trainer, and my personal trainer talked me through exercises. We went through them one-on-one. So it's understanding who those people are who could potentially help you and fill your gaps, and just being completely honest with yourself to say, I'm not very good at this. And chances are, right, the things that you aren't very good at are the things that you don't like anyway. So getting somebody else in to do them actually creates a win-win scenario for you. So the next one, number 4, is one that I've found really important, and this is practicing self-awareness. So I'm, as you know, definitely, I'm well into my mindfulness. I can categorically say that I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it wasn't for my mindfulness practice. Now, what this doesn't mean is that you have to practice mindfulness. But what it does mean is that you need to become aware about what is going on within your body, within your mind. You need to be tuning in to some of these thoughts, feelings, emotions that you are experiencing on this journey. Because only then is when you can actually take the steps to take remedial action. What you may see when you're beginning to become a little bit bogged down, recognizing the signals for that. are really important, because that's when you can begin to go, right, I'm starting to enter this state that isn't conducive with me achieving my goals. So what I need to do is X, Y, Z to go and fix that. Now, mindfulness is one way that you can actually go and get to this state. You know, doing deep breathing techniques, doing lots of self-reflection through journaling, just sitting and just being present. You know, that is one way that I would fully recommend to do this. But it's not the only way. There are other things that you can do too. Just sitting and listening, just tuning in and understanding what is actually going on in that moment. Doesn't need to be mindfulness, doesn't need to be meditation. So the next one, and so Tony Robbins always talks about this, and many others do, particularly entrepreneurs. It's about being brave. It's about embracing uncertainty. It's about being vulnerable. It's about putting yourself out there. It's about taking those chances when they arise, or creating the chances if they don't arise. You know, this is a really key one, because as you continue on your journey, you will be exposed to things that you don't like, that you are a bit scared of, a bit fearful of. And, you know, grabbing them with both hands and just saying, right, here's the challenge, right? This is an obstacle. How is it that I'm going to overcome this? Instead of running away, instead of getting into the mind and going, well, I didn't really care about this anyway, it's okay, I'll just let it go. That doesn't get you the results that you strive for. What gets you the results that you strive for is by tackling things head on and embracing that uncertainty, creating the plan, telling yourself that you can do it, identifying your strengths and weaknesses to help you resolve that specific obstacle, that uncertainty. Being self-aware so you know when you need to do certain things and what you need to do. So the final one here is to take care of your body. You know, this is a given, right? That depending obviously what your goal is and what it is you're doing would depend on the degree of focus around this. But either way, right, I would promote that you have to take care of your body. You have to do things which I will come on to shortly. I'll do kind of a rapid fire around some of these suggestions. But you have to do things to make sure that body and mind is working together, okay? So some of these things that I'll quickly rattle through, many of them are hopefully common sense, but it's important just to relay them, as the mindset is one thing, but then linking in body and mind is something that can be a real catalyst here. So the first one is about eating healthily. You know, it's a given. You know, if we sit there eating junk food, then, you know, our mind isn't going to be operating to the best of its abilities. And, you know, personally, I can relate to this, that I've noticed over this last few weeks, when I may have some little bits of junk food, then I can notice when my performance drops slightly, when I start to become a little more tired earlier and things like that. Whereas when I eat healthier, so I've been using the MyFitnessPal app to kind of look at different levels of nutrition and things like that. And it kind of really helps in kind of building that momentum and keeping energy levels at a good level. Now, the all-important one, take time out. You can't always be switched on. If you're always switched on, then you will burn out. So just take time out. If it's half an hour to just go for a walk, if it's half an hour to just sit and watch something on Netflix, whatever that may be, just make sure you take time out to look after yourself, particularly in these times where kind of mental health issues are kind of top of the agenda for a lot of people, just because of the forced lockdowns and essentially different social conditions to what we're used to. Number 3 on this is exercise. I love my exercise, as I'm sure you're aware, but you know, one of the reasons for me loving my exercise is because I see the value that exercise brings in combination with things like meditation and mindfulness. Exercise is a real de-stressor. It's something a little bit different. And what I tend to do is combine my exercise with the taking time out. Now, sleep. Sleep is the 4th one here. And Arianna Huffington speaks a lot about sleep. how she used to take it for granted and not get a lot of it until she collapsed and burnt out, and she was basically out of action for a number of months. Now, getting optimal sleep is really important, and something that most of us probably don't get a lot of. But understanding the patterns about what create a good sleeping environment for us is super important. And whilst you don't need any tech, I can promote, if I've got the Aura ring on there. And that has helped me to understand deeper some of the metrics around my sleep and understanding the conditions. Like, one thing that it's actually recommended to me is that based on my sleep patterns, I should actually go to bed half an hour early. Because when I went to bed at pretty much 10:15 every single night, it recognised that when I was getting up at between 5:30 and 6 every day, that I was just getting into a REM sleep state. So this is our dream state as I was starting to wake up. So it basically shifted things to the left so it could actually allow REM sleep, which REM sleep allows you to basically forge more memories and kind of help to refresh the brain that little bit more. Now, the final one, and I'm really not going to label this one, it's hygiene. Like, come on, guys. I know we're in lockdown, but that doesn't mean that you can skip the showers in the morning and things like that. These offer an opportunity to refresh our mind as well as cleaning ourselves too. But it's just all things like kind of preventing disease and all things like that. But personally, I find shower time great because, that's a moment of detachment from everything for me as well. So actually quite a lot of my ideas actually come out whilst I'm in the shower, as many others do too. Okay, so there's kind of six areas on the positive mindset. So first one is have belief in yourself. Second one is make a plan and strategize. Third one is identify your strengths and weaknesses. Fourth is to practice self-awareness. The fifth is to be brave and embrace uncertainty. And the sixth one is to take care of your body. So I hope this has helped. Please do write down in the comments below of any kind of thoughts or any experiences that you have on this. And also, if you enjoy this content, please do subscribe because there's basically always weekly drops, if not more frequent, of this kind of content. But yeah, enjoy.